Hi everybody. I went into Kowloon Generic Romance expecting a quiet romance with maybe some nostalgia and a slice of life atmosphere. What I found instead was one of the most surprising anime I've watched in years. A series that blends romance, science fiction, mystery, and psychological drama into something that consistently keeps you guessing. Now, to be completely clear, I first heard about this series through manga. I had slowly been reading the books and had gotten to book 3 and started to notice that things were getting a little more out of the ordinary, a little more weirder than the general romance story. And I was pleasantly surprised because I wasn't expecting this crazy sci-fi mystery. And then after watching the anime, I was able to pick up more on some of those subtleties. Now the story follows Riko and Kudo, two co-workers living in a version of the legendary Kowloon Walled City. Their lives seem ordinary at first. They work together, share meals, wander the crowded streets, and slowly grow closer. It's charming, funny, and surprisingly really good. But from the very beginning, there's a strange feeling that something about this world isn't quite right. Characters remember events differently. Familiar places seem frozen in time. Small moments repeat themselves in ways that don't feel accidental. The series never rushes to explain these mysteries. Instead, it trusts the audience to notice the little details, and that's one of the greatest strengths of this show. Now, what really impressed me is how the anime uses its visual storytelling. The direction is incredibly subtle. Small changes in lighting, recurring images, and even the way scenes are framed begin to hint that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. It's the kind of series that rewards paying attention because every episode has clues that only make sense later. The animation itself is gorgeous. Kowloon feels alive in a way few anime settings do. Every alleyway, apartment, rooftop, and restaurant has personality. The city feels crowded and worn down, yet warm and inviting at the same time. It captures the feeling of living somewhere with years of history, where every street seems to hold a memory. That atmosphere becomes one of the show's greatest characters. As the story unfolds, what begins as a simple romance slowly transforms into a fascinating science fiction mystery. Questions about memory, identity, and reality begin to take center stage. Who is Riko really? Why does Kowloon exist the way it does? Can memories define who we are? Or are we something more than the experience we remember? Now, rather than delivering huge twists every episode, Kowloon builds its mystery patiently. Every answer leads to another question, and every revelation changes how you interpret earlier scenes. By the second half of the series, I found myself constantly rethinking everything I had already watched. And what surprised me even more was how emotional the story becomes. Beneath all the science fiction ideas is a deeply human story about wanting to belong, wanting to be understood, and struggles to let go of the past. The romance isn't there simply to move the plot forward. It becomes the emotional heart of the entire series. Every mystery carries weight because it directly affects the characters and the relationships we've grown attached to. The anime also explores themes of identity and queer identity with a great deal of empathy. Without becoming heavy-handed, it asks thoughtful questions about how people define themselves and how our memories, relationships, and personal histories shape who we become. Those themes give the story a surprising emotional depth that lingers long after each episode. One of the best parts about this series is how it respects the audience. It doesn't over-explain every mystery or spell every emotion out. Instead, it allows moments to breathe, trusting you, the viewer, to connect the dots themselves. That slow pacing may not be for everyone, but if you enjoy mysteries that reward close attention, it's incredibly satisfying. By the time I reached the ending, I immediately wanted to start the series over, knowing the answers completely changed how you view earlier episodes, and suddenly all those little details you barely noticed become incredibly meaningful. That's a sign of a well-crafted mystery, and Kowloon Generic Romance absolutely earns that. Now, if you're looking for something that's like non-stop action, this probably isn't a series for you. But if you enjoy thoughtful storytelling, beautiful world building, memorable characters, and mysteries that slowly unravel over time, this is one of the best animes I've seen recently. It begins as a romance, evolves into a science fiction mystery, and ultimately becomes a moving story about memory, identity, and the places that shape our lives. Kowloon Generic Romance isn't just one of my favorite animes of the year, it reminded me why I love slow burn storytelling in the first place. It's the kind of series that stays with you long after the credits roll, inviting you to revisit and discover something new every time. Thank you for joining me here on my little corner of the internet. My name is AJ. Hang out some more, like and subscribe, check out some of my other content. Stick around. Until next time.